I'm your host, Jasmine Knight. Welcome back. If this is your first time here, subscribe so you don't miss a single thing. Smash that like button and share so the video gets pushed out to others. Remember, we can make a difference, but we must speak up. Now, on with the show.
Look what the fuck through your house. Look what the fuck through your streets. Come get it, bitch.
A few moments later.
You're fired!
Bye-bye.
And that's a fact.
And let me make something absolutely clear, unless it wasn't already. If you voted for Trump, you are not allowed in Mexico. You are not allowed in Cabos, Cancun, Puerto Vallarta, Aguascalientes, none of that. Guess what, baby? That's all in Mexico. You don't like us, we don't like you. Don't go there. Stay in your country. Figure it out. Vacation, I don't know, maybe Nebraska perhaps. One of the red states that you love so much. Stay there. Don't have margaritas, don't have tequila, no tacos, no enchiladas, none of that for you. Stick to what you know. Maybe a burger, perhaps. No cheese, no tacos, no enchiladas, none of that for you.
Let's eat one! Oh, yeah? What are you gonna do? Will you come take it out of my ham? I'm gonna eat half this plate during the break. Maybe I'll call the ICE hotline. I don't know if I'll have enough time. But sure, all kidding aside, it was actually really good taco. These people broke the law. They broke the law to get here. And once they were here, they broke the law again. It was just serious crimes, folks. These are not like shoplifting. That's why they gotta go.
Bye, bitch.
Disguise myself as a woman to see what women go through every day. I'm undercover. I'll let you know how it goes. Update you guys, women get called tranny a lot.
We're shutting down Brooklyn Bridge for Palestine!
Oh, great idea. That should work. I'm going to unplug my toaster to help save water.
72 million low-income Americans, 1 in 5 of us, don't have access to healthcare today because Trump has temporarily blocked all funding to Medicaid.
If you want to find this video, you can't, because Dean deleted it after just straight up lying to his viewers. Assistance to individuals won't be affected, including Social Security, Medicare, food stamps, and might I add Medicaid as well, because I have it and well I can still fucking use it. In this video, he decides to tell MAGA to do some research, before having to shamefully delete the video because he didn't do the research himself. Come on, Dean, you post like once every 5 days now that the election's over. You have to be better than that.
Breaking news, remember when this politician went extremely viral for...
What the do I have to do in this council in order to get respect as a black woman?
That was Democrat Boston City Councilor Tanya Fernandez Anderson, who made history becoming the first Muslim African illegal migrant to serve on the council. Famous for trying to dismantle America's white backdrop, calling for a revolution in the name of equity, has now been arrested for corruption, facing 5 counts of wire fraud and 1 count of theft involving federal funds for programs by orchestrating a scam kickback scheme. The mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu, called for her to resign. Well, well, well.
Crack is cheap. We don't do crack. We don't do that. Crack is whack.
Blanding tells us she was just trying to get to a Detroit Lions watch party this month when her Lyft rolled up.
As I'm walking, I see him like making faces or whatever. I'm like, oh man.
She already knew.
I can fit in this car.
Believe me, you can.
Yes, I can.
Believe me.
He told her there's not enough room in his car.
The kicker part was when he started to talk about his tires. You know, I feel like that was a slap in the face. That was like my tires, you know, like.
The driver said his tires could not handle her weight.
Every big person you turn down because they can't fit in your car?
Yeah, because they need to order the Uber XL.
No, I don't never have to order Uber XL.
He apologized, canceled the ride, and left her there. The rapper says she's pretty tough.
I get the money and flip it and make time food.
Dank DeMoss, as she's known at the mic, is crushed by the whole situation.
I just want them to know, like, it really hurt my feelings.
It looks like a Lyft might be hurting pretty soon, too.
I knew it was illegal and I knew that it was wrong.
Her attorneys, John Marco and Zach Runyon, say weight is a protected characteristic in Michigan by law.
It would be no different than a driver pulling up and saying, you know, I don't want to have black people in my car, or I don't want to have Christians in my car or Muslims in my car. It's the same. Under the law, it's the same.
The lawsuit is filed. Since she posted the encounter on social media, other full-figured folks have reached out saying the same thing happened to them.
Why hoes be mumbling? Pay fat queen. These bitches under me. Worry about who? Which one gon' bother me?
Hey, bro, come on now, dog. Come on, man.
Oh, yep.
No problem. I won't hit it. Oh. Nope. Yep. She's just waiting for us to hit it. She's gonna keep yelling at us. Man, we're not doing anything wrong. We're just fishing. We're just fishing. We haven't hit anything. I swear to God, if she does, we actually have to leave if she does. Oh man, once she jumps in, just head out, okay? Okay.
No more fish.
Yep, no more fish.
Someone scared him away.
It's a little unacceptable, but we'll leave.
Bye.
See ya.
Differing views.
But I think when you come out and you say like civil war and you use these like fear-mongering words, I feel like you're definitely trying to like get people like riled up, and that helps.
I mean, it's 100% factual. We're close to a civil war in this country, and I don't want that to happen. And people that act like that are going to further radicalize both sides, and you de-radicalize a population through speech.
I would say that conversation and media and like spreading the word definitely like that's like how you bridge the gap. But like when you're talking about the immigration debate, you said if you were here illegally, then you should get deported. I feel like that is stopping.
That's a very moderate view, by the way.
I feel like that's stopping like a more progressive debate on how we could help solve the immigration crisis. And
you solve it by deporting the criminals, aka every single one that broke our laws to come here. That's a very moderate position.
But I'm just saying, like, there's like ideas out there that America's this free land, and if you come here, you make it rich. Like, there's a false narrative that's like going out, that's like causing people to come here illegally, and like they try to cross the Rio Grande, and they unfortunately, like, a lot of times, like, if Border Patrol can't save them, then it stops them. So I think there's a more progressive conversation.
I'm sure there's a more progressive way to look at it. Yeah.
No, but
I'm not here to be progressive.
Okay. Well. I was speaking with some people who are kind of against you coming here today, and they say that you come here, you're media trained, you've memorized all these talking points, and I just kind of wanted to question, like, are you truthfully like here to try to change people's minds, or is there kind of a benefit to keeping people divided? Like, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, do you think it's better for the country to be divided ideologically, or is it like preventing a more progressive debate?
Well, I guess, how am I dividing people if I ask you if you disagree, you come to the mic? How is that divisive?
Well, no, I'm just saying it's like you have these like clickbaity titles. It says like prove me wrong. You try to like your critics are saying that you're trying to keep people divided. They're urging people not to come talk to you because you're going to spin it. What would you like to say to like your critics?
They're welcome to come to the microphone and say whatever they want to me, but they're intellectual cowards and they won't do that.
Okay,
you know how we heal our divides? By talking to people we disagree with.
I would agree with that.
We will get closer to a civil war if we act like that. We just yell at people we don't like. You dress with, I guess I'm all black, but, with masks on and just with stupid epitaphs. Okay, like that's how you get closer to dividing.
She's my
This is a plan that was agreed to by 179 nations. It's called the Agenda for the 21st Century. It's a totalitarian state being developed right now all over the world. It is the inventory and control plan. Inventory and control of all land, all water, all minerals, all plants, all animals, all construction, all means of production, all food, all energy, all information, and all human beings in the world. And this is a plan that was agreed to by 179 nations back in 1992. It's a United Nations plan. It's called the Agenda for the 21st Century. And so many of us around the world think that, sustainable development, it just sounds so great. Isn't it about recycling and creative reuse and creating energy and food resources for everyone? And the answer is no, it really is not. It's about moving populations into city centers, concentrated city centers, and clearing them out of the rural areas. All systems have to be brought into harmony in order to control them all. Because when systems don't meet, when they're out of balance or not in sync with one another, they can't be controlled centrally. And the goal of Agenda 21 is one world government and total control from a central unit. Every nation that signed on to Agenda 21 has its local Agenda 21 plan. People in the United States are completely unaware of this. If I go out and talk about this, the United States press attacks me and calls me, which is totally ridiculous. It is but it's not a theory. It's a fact. The 3 pillars of United Nations Agenda 21 are economy, ecology, and equity, the 3 E's. And everyone sort of thinks that they know what that means, the idea of social equity. It must mean that, well, everyone's going to have access to clean water and clean air, and no one's property is going to be used as a dumping ground because they are at a poverty level. But really what social equity is about impoverishing huge portions of the population and bringing down the developed nations. Everything that we're looking at now is destined to collapse our economies. It's a totalitarian state being developed right now all over the world. And what major corporations want in this development is to be able to have full movement of workers without borders or boundaries, to be able to move their goods through without regulations, and to reduce wages. And so this is the goal. So this is what you find with social equity. And of course, economy and ecology is about, these are the 3 circles: economy, ecology, and social equity. And where they meet in the center is balance. But really that balance is a communitarian balance. So it's not balance of well-being of the people. What it is it's a balance for corporations so that they can exploit and control and have populations in an area, in tightly packed, dense areas, so that they can be surveilled and managed. And this is what that balance looks like as far as the development of a totalitarian state is. The mainstream media is owned by 5 major corporations, and you're not going to get this information from the mainstream press. So you need to be your own press. You need to educate yourself. You need to get out there and educate your neighbors, your community, your real community. You need to help your children understand that they're being indoctrinated from pre-kindergarten to postgraduate school. All of us have a responsibility to ourselves and to others. This is true community, to work for personal freedom. And always remember that even though we work as a group, if we do work as a group, we're all individuals in those groups. And we answer only to ourselves. And this is essential. It's essential as free human beings. This is what we are. We are free, and we need to continue to be free. And I do believe that we will win, but we have to become aware that there is a fight, and then make our friends and our neighbors and our community aware as well, and work together.
All right, let's go back to our chronology.
Okay.
Last time we visited, you were telling us about they had made you sign a whole lot of documents, and then you joined something called IDARF.
The Interplanetary Defense and Reaction Forces were a unit that was Border Patrol, used for assistance on other planets. However, there were a number of training exercises and training periods that we spent here on Earth. Later in my deployment, I found out a lot more information about the history of the space program, this one in particular.
Where'd you find this out?
Well, it was while I was stationed on the second planet during my second deployment. And we'll call him Johann, a friend of mine that was also an officer, German descent. He was a Mars German. Not all of them were arrogant jerks, just like our population here. You have a mixture of good people, nice people, not so nice people. So same thing with the Mars Germans. Generally speaking, they had an arrogant streak that would put any politician, actor, or professional athlete to shame. And part of that was because they were genetically modified. They did have usually stronger, faster, higher reflexes, higher IQ.
Wait a minute, are you saying that the German people are some kind of genetic experiment?
The Mars German civilization, they have been tinkering with their genetics since they went independent.
Mm-hmm.
During a deployment, we never would have talked about any of this. around or near any senior officer, as well as around any chances of being recorded.
So it was really, you weren't supposed to be talking about what the history of this whole thing was.
That's correct.
But you must have been really curious.
Of course I was.
Everybody must have been really curious how this all happened. I mean, and everybody's speaking German, and we defeated them in World War II, and why are we taking orders from Germans?
Yeah, why are all of our commanding officers of German descent or German accent?
So you were already just curious as hell when you met Johann.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and during the training early on when I first met him, he knew things about technology that none of the other trainees knew.
Right.
And so he'd been exposed to it. I knew that he had. And they tell and educate their citizens a lot more on what really happened. Now, I am absolutely certain that they also provide them with propaganda, but the origins, what happened pre and post World War II, what's happened on Earth, their involvement with alien species, the lessons that they've learned from those involvements, their people are a lot more educated on that.
So World War II ends. We know the Germans were developing the Foo Fighters and early UFO technology, but they didn't save themselves from the Allies at the end of World War II. They were defeated. So what happened?
Well, in the late 30s, there were a number of secret societies, the Vril Society being one of them, that the German state absorbed into their R&D programs. And they were already visiting other planets at the end of the 1930s.
So they had developed technologies in the 30s?
In the late 30s.
Wow.
They had developed these anti-gravity or saucer technologies that allowed them to travel outside of our atmosphere.
And why didn't Hitler use this for fighting in World War II?
Well, he wanted to.
But he didn't. So why didn't he?
The problem was that they couldn't outfit these UFOs with modern conventional weapons because of the second law of momentum.
Right.
They couldn't shoot and expect it to stay in place. As you get a force in this direction, you're going to get a reaction in the opposite direction. And so since it's in the air, they wouldn't work.
So conventional weaponry doesn't work with zero-G craft?
Not unless it's corrected and they didn't have that advancement.
There's a man on the moon or whatever, something, or, whether those aliens are here or not. I'm not sure I'm going to talk to them, but they're real. I promise you. I guarantee you. I've had this encounter with Wentland. And I'd get up in the night, in the middle of the night with a flashlight, and I'd look for them. I could tell when I saw him. When he put his hand out, he went like this. All of a sudden, I was raised very, very high. And he looked at me and said, look at me, Joey. I come from outer space. I've gone, oh my God. What's happening? Please don't leave us, don't leave us. And it was all gone. I know that sounds silly, but everybody thought I was a little nuts. But it happened. It happened. Think about that. Mr. President, what am I doing here?
All right. Okay, let's. All right. We're going to take a quick break. We'll have more with President Joe Biden.
About the third law.
Yes.
And getting back what you get out.
What you put out.
What you put out.
Yes.
And intention.
Yes.
And service.
Yes.
And I feel that I have put out the very best I had in me with the best of intentions.
Yes.
And I got nothing positive in return.
Not so. Again, you must rearrange the way you understand this. First of all, remember this. If your fear is stronger than your intention, then it is your fear that's creating the reality. It is the strongest vibration you put out that creates the reality. No matter what your intention is, if your fear is stronger, that's what's creating the reality. You understand?
Yes.
So if you are trying really hard, then it's because you don't believe it's easy. And therefore, trying really hard says, it must be difficult, so give that back to me, because that's what I'm putting out. And that's what you're getting. And in a sense, therefore, that's very positive, because you are getting precisely back what you have really been putting out, which then makes it easier for you to really know what you've really been putting out as opposed to what you think you're putting out.
That's the one that gets me.
But you see, that's what makes it easy, because when you're honest with yourself and you realize, wait a minute, if I am getting what I perceive to be a difficult time, then I am putting out the belief in difficulty. Not what I think I'm putting out. I'm putting out the belief in difficulty. And if you really, like I said, just pay attention to yourself, you will hear how very easily you are doing that. Because someone who believes they have to really try really hard to have a good life is saying they don't believe that a good life is easy. And that's the real belief. Therefore, that's the reflection.
Put them all together. Bill Clinton, George Mitchell, Alec Baldwin. Didn't see that coming. Ralph Fiennes, George Hamilton, Dustin Hoffman. Oh, not Dustin Hoffman. Kevin Spacey, Elizabeth Hurley, Laura Hunton, Janice Dixon. Who the fuck is that? Naomi Campbell, Christy Turlington, Henry Kissinger. That dude look crazy. He does, man. Joan Rivers. I know she burning in hell. Courtney Love, Mick Jagger. I couldn't have figured that. Who the hell's Courtney guessing? Phil Collins. Phil Collins? Not Phil Collins. That's crazy. Simon LeBone. Charlie Rose. He looked creepy. All look creepy. Richard Branson. What? Candice Bushell. Tom Ford. Yeah, I could tell looking at him. Yeah. Vera Wang. Never heard of her. Nadia Borland. Who's that? Nice ass. I don't know. Koo Stark. What kind of name is Koo Stark? Seth Green. Seth Green. James Gunn. Dan Snyder. Steven Spielberg. Tom Hanks. Oh, man. Stephen Colbert. Yeah, that suit never fooled me. And those glasses. Kathy Griffin. Yeah, that makes sense. Oprah Winfrey. Jay-Z. Beyonce. Anthony Cledis. John Legend. Oh, my boy John Legend and Christy Teigen went. Jim Carrey. Steven Tyler. Ben Affleck. One of J-Lo went. Stephen Collins. Will Ferrell. Eminem. What? Victor Salva. Mark Rector. Charlie Sheen. He done it spreading AIDS. Tyler Gresham. Madonna. Yeah, who didn't see that coming? Catherine Hudson. Gwen Stefani. Gwen Stefani? Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga. Man. James Franco. Will Smith. But she was smacking bitches down. Justin Rowland. John Cusack. Anderson Cooper. Demi Moore. Brian Affleck. Never heard of. Meryl Streep. Wanda Sykes. Chelsea Handler. Chelsea Handler? I figured that one. Michelle Wolf. Yeah, she's crazy. Michelle Wolf. Yeah. Pharrell Williams. Wow. Quentin Tarantino. Robert Downey Jr. Man, this is crazy as hell.
All right, this part 4. We just gonna keep the information coming. Like I said in the last video, does this not look like she's standing in a giant fucking egg? Does that shawl that she have on, that yellow fucking shawl, does that not look like to you fucking egg yolk? You know how much money goes into these fucking advertisements and these pictures? Everything is strategically placed on purpose. There ain't no accidents where they just take the picture and be like, oh, I fucked up, we just gonna keep it. Fuck no, ain't none of that. Anything that you see in that fucking photo was meant for you to see and meant to be there. No accidents. They spend millions upon millions of fucking dollars for these advertisements. So if you think they fucking up or somebody along the line is making a mistake, I can assure you they are not. Now take a look at her hair. I mean, that's an interesting hairstyle. Rihanna did not walk into a room and say, hey, make my hair like this. Somebody chose that hairstyle for her. Actually, it might have been a fucking room full of people, a board of people for all I know. Somebody chose that shit to put on her head. Somebody chose those clothes that she's probably wearing. Somebody chose that backdrop. Now back to the hair. I mentioned the hair for a specific reason. Hold up real quick. Let me show you something. Yes, that is a snake. Can we guess what this snake is wrapped around? It's almost similar to her fucking hairstyle. See, y'all think this is a fucking game. Like, y'all ain't ready for this shit, man. Learn how to read symbols. I guarantee you, a lot of y'all was out here walking fucking blind. I'm talking about Ray Charles to the fucking second power blind. If you have fully functioning eyes, you're just ignorant. Do you even know what this is that I'm showing you? Have you ever seen this thing before? Do you know what it's called? Guess what? You're in luck. Because your big bro Shane gonna tell you. Now, before I do that, I have to explain to you what a talisman is. A talisman is an object described with religious or magical powers intended to protect, heal, or harm individuals for whom they are made. Talismans are often portable objects carried on someone in a variety of ways, but can also be installed permanently in architecture. I knew he was getting down and dirty today.
Kiss me hard before you go. Summertime sadness.
It's February the 9th, 2023, and this is my 321st video since the fake pandemic, the COVID fraud, and the designer war started and began us on our long journey into the new abnormal and the great reset. This is, I believe, the most important video you'll ever watch because it shows without any reasonable doubt that Joe Biden, the American president, accelerated the designer war between Russia and Ukraine, which has now become World War III, with America, the EU and the UK supplying tanks to attack Russians, and a German minister admitting that we are at war with Russia. Moreover, America, the EU and the UK are deliberately pushing us remorselessly towards the world's first and probably last nuclear war. Your life depends on knowing what I'm going to tell you and on doing something about it, sharing the video with everyone you know and demanding that your government resign. Everyone who has supported the war in Ukraine with money, flags, badges and so on has been helping to lead us into a nuclear war. Everything they've told you about Ukraine is a lie. The plot to start this war began in 2014 when America and the European Union, of which the UK was then a fully paid up member of course, helped overthrow a democratically elected government in Ukraine. Former President Obama admitted in 2015 that the US had been involved in replacing the democratically elected government and offering the incoming government, now headed by Zelensky, billions of dollars in aid. There are plenty of statues to and much support for Nazi collaborator Bandera. Look him up. The US wanted a puppet regime on Russia's doorstep as a launch pad for a planned NATO war with Russia. That was 2014. Obama, who was unbelievably awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, was of course responsible for much of the killing and destruction in Afghanistan. The current war in Ukraine started in 2014 but escalated in February 2022, and by then the Americans under Biden had already begun to get involved. In January 2021, a year before Russia was reported to have invaded Ukraine, the Americans had their eyes on the conflict, and there was open talk of halting the Nord Stream pipelines. Biden, you'll remember, became the 46th US president in January 2021. Before Russia invaded Ukraine, Biden warned, quote, "If Russia invades, then there will be no Nord Stream 2, we will bring an end to it." That's on record. The Nord Stream pipelines were set up by Russia to transport cheap Russian gas to Germany and the rest of Europe, and the Biden administration wasn't happy about this. Biden and his advisors had several objections. First, they didn't want the Russians being able to sell their own gas too readily to Europe. Putin had never been part of the globalist conspiracy and was a very large problem. Second, America wanted to sell American gas to Europe by transporting LNG across the Atlantic. This would enable them to make as much money as they could before billions die. Third, Biden and company knew that if they could pretend that the Russians had blown up their own pipeline out of spite and in response to the sanctions brought against Russia, the Europeans in particular would blame their high fuel prices on Russia and support intervention in the war in Ukraine. Fourth, the designer war against Russia would lead to the destruction of Europe, which is, after all, much closer to Russia than America. London, Paris and Berlin are all easily reachable targets. This was all part of the plan to reduce the global population. And so, according to a report by renowned Pulitzer Prize-winning 85-year-old Seymour Hersh, the greatest ever American investigative journalist and the man who broke the stories of the My Lai massacre in Vietnam and the events in Abu Ghraib in Iraq, Biden decided that he would blow up the pipeline and set up a task force with the CIA in early 2020 to plan this. Hersh reports that in June 2022, on Biden's orders, divers placed C4 explosive charges on the pipelines. This was done in great secrecy, and everything possible was done to keep it all very secret. The bombs were planted under cover of a military exercise in that month. The Norwegians who helped with the mission knew that they'd be able to sell their gas to Europe too. Then in September 2022, a buoy, or buoy as the Americans call them, was dropped by plane and the charges were set off. The US Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs, Victoria Hewland, hailed the destruction of the pipeline at a Senate hearing. Inevitably, the US blamed Russia, claiming that they'd blown up a pipeline which had taken Russia 15 years to build and had cost $20 billion. The result of all this is that the prices for fuel in Europe and the rest of the world have skyrocketed. The price of food has inevitably soared too. There will be hundreds of millions of deaths in Asia and Africa where people can no longer afford fertilizers, food or fuel. Biden must go down into the history books as one of the most evil men in history, and now we're heading rapidly towards a nuclear war. Under Sunak's alleged leadership, Britain, pretty well bankrupt and at the start of a major recession, is talking about supplying jet fighters to Ukraine on top of the billions of pounds worth of bombs and bullets already sent. And it seems certain that it will. America and Germany and the UK all denied that they'd send tanks, but they are. And the UK is already training Ukraine pilots to fly British jets. The future is now bleak indeed. We have been betrayed by everyone. In the UK, Charles the hypocrite, and a staunch supporter of a smaller global population, has always been a vocal supporter of Ukraine. The globalist conspirators know that the COVID jab has destroyed the immune systems of billions and will make those individuals who have been jabbed far more vulnerable to the radiation effects if nuclear bombs are dropped. As I warned in a video in May 2022, they want a nuclear war. The fake pandemic was always a distraction, a compliance program, and a way to weaken immune systems through the fake vaccines. The CIA and the White House have denied Seymour Hersh's story. But you know that what he's saying is true because the mainstream media, led, no doubt, by the CIA, is now describing him as a discredited journalist and self-publisher, the very same words they used to try and discredit me early in 2020. You'll know, by the way, that the beginning of nuclear war is very close when Charles leaves Buckingham Palace and suddenly decides to go to one of his country palaces, in Scotland perhaps, and when Sunak goes to Cornwall on holiday, and when Macron disappears into the country, and so on. Anyone in or within 30 miles of a decision-making major city such as London, Paris or Berlin would be well advised to leave when that happens. It's time for us all to prepare. You'll need food, medicines and cash. Our comfort is that we have God on our side. Please share this video. Our only chance of stopping what they've planned is for the world to know.
Excited when I put this tip inside it. I like the way you write it. I told me it look like siren, just like 5-0. I got 5 just like domino. I'm for the bitch.
Discretion is advised.
We like war. We're a warlike people. We like war because we're good at it. You know why we're good at it? Because we get a lot of practice. This country's only 200 years old, and already we've had 10 major wars. We average a major war every 20 years in this country, so we're good at it. And it's a good thing we are. We're not very good at anything else anymore. Huh? Can't build a decent car, can't make a TV set or a VCR worth the fuck. Got no steel industry left, can't educate our young people, can't get health care to our old people, but we can bomb the shit out of your country, all right? Especially if your country is full of brown people. That's our new job in the world, bombing brown people. Iraq, Panama, Grenada, Libya, you got some brown people in your country, tell them to watch the fuck out, or we'll goddamn bomb them. Well, when's the last white people you can remember that we bombed? Can you remember the last white, can you remember any white people we've ever bombed? The Germans, those are the only ones, and that's only because they were trying to cut in on our action. They wanted to dominate the world. Bullshit, that's our fucking job. And you probably noticed I don't feel about that war the way we were told we were supposed to feel about that war, the way we were ordered and instructed by the United States government to feel about that war. My mind doesn't work that way. I got this real moron thing I do, it's called thinking. And I'm not a very good American because I like to form my own opinions. I don't just roll over when I'm told to. Sad to say, most Americans just roll over on command. Not me. I have certain rules I live by. My first rule, I don't believe anything the government tells me. Nothing. Zero. Nope. And I don't take very seriously the media or the press in this country, who in the case of the Persian Gulf War were nothing more than unpaid employees of the Department of Defense, and who most of the time function as kind of an unofficial public relations agency for the United States government. So I don't listen to them, I don't really believe in my country, and I gotta tell you folks, I don't get all choked up about yellow ribbons and American flags. I consider them to be symbols, and I leave symbols to the symbol-minded.
I'm talking about the fact that a war is rich old men protecting their property by sending middle class and lower class young men off to die. Forget these foolish elections. The owners of this country don't care about the poor in general.
The owners of this country? What are we going? Is this Karl Marx talking to me? The owners of this country are the voters of this country.
No, you're wrong about that, my friend.
Aren't the owners of this country the voters in this country who
no,
elected George
they're
Bush?
not. Listen, politics, these elections are a charade. It is a charade.
Okay.
It is, they are meant to, well, I'll tell you, listen, just listen for a minute. Learn a little something. The elections and politicians are in place in order to give Americans the illusion that they have freedom of choice. You don't really have choice in this country. All of the things that are important, reduced in choice. Newspapers in a city, how many? Used to be 3, 4, now it's 1 or 2 that are owned by the same people, and they also own a radio station. Give these people a voting day every year so that they'll have the illusion of meaningless choice. Meaningless choice, that we go like slaves and say, oh, I voted. The limits of debate in this country are established before the debate even begins, and everyone else is marginalized. They're made to seem either to be communists or some sort of disloyal person. A kook, there's a word. And now it's conspiracy. See, they've made that something that should not be even entertained for a minute, that powerful people might get together and have a plan. Doesn't happen. You're a kook. You're a conspiracy buff. Conspiracy buff.
Not as a result of a conspiracy, but
you
because...
don't need a formal conspiracy.
Right.
When interests converge, these people went to the same universities and fraternities, they're on the same boards of directors, they're on the same country clubs, they have like interests, they don't need to call a meeting, they know what's good for them, and they're getting it. And there used to be 7 oil companies, there are now 3, it will soon be 2. The things that matter in this country have been reduced in choice. There are 2 political parties, there are a handful of insurance companies, there are about 6 or 7 information things. But if you want a bagel, there are 23 flavors, because you have the illusion. You have the illusion of choice. Right. You don't get the real important choice. There's no freedom of choice.
That's a great point.
But there's a reason. There's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason education sucks, and it's the same reason that it will never, ever, ever be fixed. It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The big, the wealthy, the real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. They're irrelevant. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets, and they own all the big media news, all the big media companies. So they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. You know something? They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table and figure out how badly they're getting fucked by a system that threw them overboard 30 fucking years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork, and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your fucking retirement money. They want it back, so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later, because they own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club. And by the way, it's the same big club they use to beat you over the head with all day long when they tell you what to believe. All day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and what to buy. The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged. And nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. Good, honest, hard-working people, white collar, blue collar, doesn't matter what color shirt you have on. Good, honest, hard-working people continue. These are people of modest means. Continue to elect these rich cocksuckers who don't give a fuck about them. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you at all. At all. At all. Yeah. You know?
Thank you so much for staying until the end. Comment Jazzy Night to show your support. If you got anything from this video, a good laugh, or helpful information, please smash that like button, share this video with everyone you know. Become a Patreon Knight and gain access to exclusive content. and group chats with yours truly. I'll leave a link in the description. Never stop fighting for what you believe in. Remember, together, we can make a difference, but we must speak up.